If there's one thing I've learned after watching the most recent episode of Darling in the Franxx, it's that everybody really hates Ichigo. But is the hate really warranted? One of my favorite things about being an anime reviewer is getting to see the reactions of the fan base. And the reaction from the most recent episode of Darling in the Franxx, episode 14, has got to be one of the craziest things that I have ever seen. There was a big moment in this episode which angered a lot of people, and honestly, I know exactly where you are coming from. Episode 14 was supposed to be the turning point. The moment where Hiro and Zero Two were finally going to come together, they were going to squash all of their bullshit, and it was completely destroyed thanks to Ichigo. Ichigo is doing everything in her power to make sure that Hiro and Zero Two have nothing to do with one another. And she is going to forcibly put herself into a relationship with Hiro. A relationship that I also believe he wants nothing to do with. But the thing is, her actions in the last couple of episodes, in particular the most recent one, have really rubbed people the wrong way. I can't tell you how many funny comments I've read and all of the amazing things I've been hearing from social media, giving Ichigo nicknames like Ichiho and Bitchigo. I totally get where you guys are coming from. I know that. She's basically become the ultimate cock blocker. But you have to realize that these are not normal children. They have not started normal relationships. You kind of have to put yourself in the shoes of these characters, and you have to realize that when in the story of Darling in the Franxx, these are children who have essentially been raised to become weapons. They're basically considered livestock to the people that bring them up to where they are now. And that's really fascinating, as the adults in the series do not tell these children about the concept of love, forming relationships, puberty, and what it all ultimately leads to, which is making babies. And because they don't know anything about this, it has caused them to just go insane with their hormones. And Ichigo has definitely been sort of like the poster child for all of the wrong things that could happen to these kids right here. Especially for the fact is, she doesn't quite know how to express her feelings to Hiro unless she forcibly does it, which she does in the most recent episode, which I have to say was an incredibly striking moment. Not only did it make me lose a little bit of my love for Ichigo, but it made me realize that at this point she might even be a lost cause and could slowly but surely be transforming into something of an adversary for the series. That and the fact that the entire scene is just mired in rejection. It hurts so much to see. Hiro desperately wanting to be with Zero Two, Goro falling in love with Ichigo and being rejected. And not only that, but while Ichigo might be kissing Hiro, Hiro does not seem to be enjoying it whatsoever. In fact, I would say one of the strongest scenes from this entire episode, which fully proves that Hiro just does not feel that way about Ichigo, is the scene where he's in the hospital, where she brings him an apple and starts to carve it for him, and she ends up cutting her finger. Now, when I was watching this scene for the very first time, we get to see that Hiro gets really close to her, grabs her hand, looks at the cut, and in that moment, I honestly thought he was going to start licking it. Licking the wound. Why do I bring this up? Because in the past, there was a scene between a younger Zero Two and Hiro where she gets hurt, she scrapes her knee, and Hiro decides to start licking her wounds, something that he read about in books. But ultimately, this is to show how much he truly cares about her, that he would quite literally lick the dirty blood from her knee just to make her feel better. What does he do with Ichigo? He doesn't lick a damn thing. He wraps it up, he sterilizes it with a frickin' Band-Aid, and that's it. It's basically like a big, hello, I'm not really into you, Ichigo, kind of moment. But again, you kind of have to put yourself in the shoes of Ichigo. I don't think that she's a bad person. I think she actually does have good intention. Just the way that she goes about it is a little strange, but you have to think about this for a second. Have you ever known anyone that was in an abusive relationship? I mean, really, try to imagine that if, say, your best friend was in a relationship with a girl who decided to, or even vice versa, this can go both ways, that actually they ended up hurting one another to the point where you could see the physical violence on their bodies. This is the moment for Ichigo when she actually realized that 02 was not only harming Hiro mentally, but quite physically. He had actual handprints on his neck, and anyone who saw that, who saw their friend, someone that they loved and cared about, actually getting hurt, would probably act in an irrational way. And that's exactly what Ichigo did in that episode. It's surprisingly realistic, but what makes it all the more heartbreaking is that she doesn't fully understand what she's doing or why she's doing it. She just wants the love of Hiro, and she will desperately try to get it any way she wants, and she doesn't care who she hurts to get it. Ultimately, she's not a bad person. She's just really selfish. She cares about number one, herself, her happiness. She doesn't care about Goro. Is this something that's going to lead her down a darker path, or something that she could possibly learn from in the future? Is there any reconciling the relationship between Ichigo and 02? That's something that I think is going to be really fascinating, and something that will ultimately tie into this series, which is all about working together with people, understanding them, and forming relationships with them. It's not something that's going to be spoon-fed for them. It's something that they're going to have to learn themselves, which ultimately made me realize the genius of Darling in the Franxx in the most recent episode. It's not about the robots. It's not about the monsters. It's about the characters and the relationships that they're in and how they interact with one another. Sometimes it can end violently and end with tears, and that's what the most recent episode was. I do love that the episode has created a lot of dialogue from the fan base, though. I do feel, though, again, though, that a lot of the hate towards Ichigo is a little too strong. That being said, I totally see where you guys are coming from. I understand why you just absolutely hate this character. But I still think that there is hope for Ichigo in the future. Why can't it just go back to the old days when 02 would casually lick Ichigo? Now that I'm saying that out loud, that sounds kind of creepy. Sorry. Really, though, I'm making this video because I just wanted to get your reaction to this episode, and I'd love to hear from you guys, so you could tell me, do you hate Ichigo? Do you sympathize with her character? Do you think there's just nothing left for her? Did this episode affect you like it did a lot of the other big fan base of Darling in the Franxx? Let's start a discussion in the comments section below and try to dissect really what's going on here. I'd love to discuss this with you guys. I just had to talk about this because, man, this stuff has been blowing up. I've been receiving so many messages about it, and just reading the comments from my last review has been a blast, I have to admit. And I want to say, too, that I'm not completely biased. I want to hear all of your opinions, and I want to know everything, because that's what I love about anime and talking about it, is getting the different viewpoints from a lot of different people. And this is an episode that I really think is worth discussing for only how crazy and insane it is. So, there it is. Ichigo might be an Ichiho, but there might be hope for her in the future. So, there it is, guys. Like I said, let's start a discussion. Tell me all your thoughts about Ichigo, whether you like or hate her. Please give me a good reason why. And if you do talk with other people in the comment section, please be respectful. Let's try to keep this respectful of everyone's opinions and not try to jump down each other's throat. Don't be black and white about everything. Let's start a good discussion, and let's get excited for more Darling in the Franxx. So there it is. That's this quick little discussion video. I want to do more of these in the future. A lot of times I just don't have time, but I had to talk about this event for just how crazy it is and how people are reacting to it. So there it is. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.